I am a 33-year-old male, and 2 years ago, we broke up. Despite our best efforts, we have been unable to conceive due to my infertility. For me, it was simply so depressing. My ex was determined to give it another go, but it was too painful. Before we looked into alternative options, I told her that I wanted to quit for the time being. A few months later, she broke up with me because she couldn't wait any longer. I was shocked to learn that the strange woman I spent a drunken night with was expecting a child. Yes, we verified that he was indeed my biological child, as I never imagined that this would be the case. Sadly, my son's mother passed away when he was just 4 months old. I've been a single father ever since. My ex has attempted to get in touch. I don't want to communicate with her because my life has changed and she is no longer needed. My sister has been her strongest supporter because the kids' arguments caused us to break up after years of dating. Apparently we could sort things out now that I'm a parent. 2 weeks ago, we commemorated my son's first birthday. Both his moms and my families were present. My sister or another member of my family most likely told my ex. I wouldn't even let her in, but she brought a gift for my son. She would not go, so we argued at the door. In an attempt to meet my son and have a conversation about things, my ex was attempting to persuade me to allow her to stay. She felt she could replace his mother in his life, and I already knew why she wanted to. However, that would not occur. She did go eventually, but by then I was quite pissed off. I wanted to give the gifts to my ex-partner. She didn't think she had a chance of living, so I wouldn't accept it. I just threw it out because she left it at my door. Still, he received a ton of other gifts. My ex argues that I was the idiot for making fun of her in front of my family, and the family of my son's mother because it was all in public. Taking her aside for a private talk would have been a less chaotic way to allow her to sneak away without being noticed. Moreover, she discovered that I had disposed of her gift, which they considered foolishness as it was intended for him. This did not grant me the authority to discard something that was my son's. I'm still resentful of my ex because of how things ended, and seeing her triggered my negative feelings towards her. I wonder if I was in the right or if I was the fool that handled the whole affair. She unexpectedly entered the party. Who told her the time and place? Your sibling. And then became irate that she was banished? Ignore that sound. No, the OP is not the fool. You deserve what comes to you when you crash a party. I think your sister is a moron. Adding a child to a relationship won't make it magically flawless if it can't work on its own. Tell your ex to quit or you'll take legal action if she tries to get back into your and your son's lives. Just in case, consider obtaining a restraining order. I concur. OP needs to have a serious conversation with his sister and tell her that he won't be in contact with her if she continues to meddle or even brings up their former spouse. I would also put her on an information diet since, even if she behaves going forward, it's clear that she is repeating everything the ex says. I wonder whether the ex was using birth control covertly when they were dating OP. Perhaps she, not OP, was the infertile one. It appears from what you state that she wants to take the mother's position and may even be encouraged to do so by your sister. Therefore, you should have a serious conversation with her and make it plain that you will be limiting your contact and sharing of information with her unless she quits interfering. A lady who leaves you when she believes you are infertile and then quickly returns the moment you become pregnant doesn't desire you. She only wants your child. Both my girlfriend and I, age 23, reside in a rather small town where most people know one another. Last week, I left my girlfriend alone at home with our dog while I went on a trip to visit my parents. According to her account, she walked our dog in the morning to relieve herself. As soon as she did, a stranger to us reached over the wall separating us from our neighbors and inquired about my girlfriend's plans for the day, stating that he was working on the roof of the house next door and didn't want the noise to disturb her. My partner chose to tell him about her plans for the day, which included going out, despite what seemed like a clear warning sign to me. She walked outside with the dog and came back into the house robbed. Not much was taken, but my laptop was one among the items. She contacted me, clearly upset, and told me about the incident from the morning when I asked her who it could have been. She had just told this unknown man that she would be leaving the house for the day, and it turned out that she hadn't even shut the rear door. I pointed out to her that she was fully to blame and that her lack of critical thinking was alarming. Jokingly, I advised her to see a doctor. Since then, we've been at odds over it, and everyone has essentially told me that I'm being too hard on her and that it's not her fault. Am I the foolish one? It's you who is the fool. Like, I get that you were angry that your partner had made a serious mistake in judgment and that the house had been broken into. Even so, I suppose I would hold the thief accountable. To be honest, what has benefited from your remarks? Getting so upset with her is helping with what? Isn't it true that she is already criticizing herself for her part in this? The fool is not the OP. She didn't lock the door, he claimed. When they leave the house, who doesn't lock the door? You get furious at people for silly things they do. Anger never solves anything, yet it is a normal human emotion nonetheless. She owes him a new laptop, at minimum. You all need to understand that when someone commits a crime against another person, the victim is still the victim even though the victim made faults. Why am I becoming so angry with her? She ought to report the man to the police as she is aware of his appearance. It's you who is the fool. She is already aware of her mistake. It might have been much worse, so there's no need to kick her while she's on the ground. Anything could have happened to her because she was alone. Here, everyone is the idiot. The reasoning behind everyone's defense of the girlfriend are incorrect. She made a mistake by not securing the door and telling a stranger her intentions for the day. She could deter them from robbing the place if she remained silent and assumed the thief was an ordinary person. She is not innocent, of course. The boyfriend should not have comforted and rubbed it in his partner's face. God, it seems like everyone criticizes guys for being naive but not women. It's crazy. She was fortunately spared physical harm and has now learned a very valuable lesson. You clearly understand that being a jerk about the circumstance won't make it better. Meg, my cousin Rick's 18-year-old daughter, is the child of his wife Leah. At a family gathering, Leah told me that Meg, like me, intended to major in computer technology in college. Rick said he was hoping I'd have some advice for her given I'd done a CS degree too, but I didn't really want to get into my ideas about that, so I said, "Cool. Well, honestly, my first piece of advice is don't. If I could go back in knowing what I know now, I never would have started that degree," I said, apprehensive that none of you would find what I had to say interesting. Rick asked. "How so?" Meg said. "I'd like to hear it." Leah questioned what I was talking about. Meg was naturally good at it. Meg mentioned how much she enjoyed it as well. She wanted to know what I was talking about because she was in the school robotics club. I briefed her on my professional background. The corporate feminism of girl power that I was raised with completely captivated me. I found the college curriculum to be manageable, but it was incredibly challenging to deal with the level of abuse I experienced from both instructors and peers. After graduation, I discovered that the industry was even worse than academia. My direct manager's harassment, and his management's retribution against me by HR caused me to quit my first job. After I got a new job, the same thing happened. I'm 28 years old, and I've departed 3 jobs because of ongoing harassment that management and HR would either ignore or actively encourage. When I initially started my job, I didn't have a network of female friends or mentors. Sadly, all of these ladies that I looked up to as role models have departed the industry 9 years later. Seeing as how none of the individuals I looked up to could manage it, makes me feel rather hopeless. I said that if I could go back, I would exchange all of the money I earned in this industry for my personal security and emotional well-being. There is no monetary value for those goods. Meg expressed her desire to converse further and exchanged phone numbers with me. Rick abruptly stopped me when I reached to give her mine by slamming his hand down on the table. He told me that trying to convince his daughter out of a successful job was totally improper on my part. He begged me to shut up and not speak to his daughter again, saying it wasn't my place to ruin her future. I interrupted to say, "Did you miss everything I said? It isn't a good career. It doesn't matter how much it pays if it's not safe." I became frustrated and replied, I'm not trying to ruin her future. I'm trying to be realistic about what she can expect. Like, I wish someone was with me, but I did walk off since he was getting pretty heated. I haven't heard from them since. Am I the idiot? And did I overstep by being so frank about my thoughts on Meg's possible field of study and future career? Not the fool. I salute the female scientists here. You've just given this young lady an amazing service. They requested your opinion. If they weren't interested in the truth, they shouldn't have done it. Though I'm not surprised, I'm disappointed that her father did not take this seriously. He is putting money and a job ahead of the possible harassment of his daughter. I have no idea why fathers choose to overlook this fact. Instead of teaching their girls self-defense skills and preparing them for the inevitable challenges ahead, they lavish affection on them. In this way, our civilization is archaic. Not to be the fool, but if these problems have caused you and all of your role models to quit the profession, I'm beginning to wonder if this is a common issue in the area you live in. As a female computer science student, I don't know of any peers who have endured the kind of persistent harassment you have. It's you who is the fool. She needs to know this, but it's not going to help transform the industry to discourage other women. This is what you personally experienced, as well as what a few other women experienced. Please don't let people down. Or perhaps this wasn't your thing. There are 8 years between me and my brother. Every year, our birthdays fall within a week and a half of one another. I love that we celebrate our combined birthday, but every year I feel a little like an afterthought. Everyone at the venue we reserved advised we ought to all start singing happy birthday as soon as my brother arrived. My mother is aware of my hatred for the cake. Not that specific cake, but one to which I'm mildly allergic to a particular ingredient. She admitted to me that she overlooked that component. His birthday present was thoughtfully chosen to be something he would enjoy, whereas mine was a regift that I was only casually informed I would receive sometime. I understand that my parents are having financial difficulties right now, and I don't really care what I end up with. But my brother had stated his earlier, and the gift took that into consideration. He was taking care of every minute of the evening. I felt unimportant, like my brother was the center of attention the entire evening. Since I'm the senior of the two of us, and we have such a large age gap, I never really had a problem because he was younger, and I knew it would affect him more as a child. The previous couple of our birthdays as fully grown adults have gone like this, and I've fought back tears the entire time. I know my family loves me, and I love them too. I simply feel so neglected and excluded. I don't hold this against my younger brother in any way. He's one of my favorite family members and really amazing. I feel so foolish for having these feelings in the first place. I want to stop feeling this way every year, so I'm at the stage now where I want to avoid these joint parties, not make a big deal out of it, just to say that I have other birthday plans and will catch up with everyone later once my birthday has gone. I'm not offending anyone though. Not the fool. Initially, I assumed that since your brother was a small child and you were possibly an adolescent, this would make more sense. But now that you're both adults, I'm not so sure. All I would do is avoid the parties. Having a cake that you are unable to consume is quite considered impolite. It's terrible if your mother baked a cake that contains a component you are allergic to. That wins hands down. When you know you will be rejected at an event, why even bother going? Alternatively, you two may do something fun together. How absurd is that? This is just awful on your family's part. They're feeding you something you're allergic to, no matter how light, and they're also making singing to you in your present an afterthought. You continue to be allergic. I would no longer even bother to go. Birthdays are meant to celebrate the individual turning a certain age, and if that age is 2 or more, then it should celebrate all of the birthday individuals. They're favoritizing you and making you feel less significant. However, you need to discuss this with your family. If you continue to blow up at the wrong person, you'll become the foolish one. You're collapsing your feelings. Your emotions are quite legitimate. Tell them that you didn't enjoy the party and that it should have been for your brother alone the next year when they extend an invitation to celebrate your birthday. They'll probably ask why, to which you can respond honestly. This is something you owe to yourself. Most likely, your family is unaware of what they are doing. I'm not sure if this is a common occurrence, but in elementary school, my instructor would assign us a duty to either chastise or teach the academically bright but quiet girls to the lazy or troublemaking boys. I detested it the most of the time. I used to tell my mother that my student was sluggish or stupid, but I've since realized that some of these children might have specific needs and be struggling with learning. But I didn't know any better at the time. My tween niece informed me that her instructor was acting similarly. She assigned all the girls to assist the males with their homework, help them learn their lines for the upcoming play, and other tasks. She placed all the girls with all the boys. And what do you know? It irritates my niece. She has a troublemaking student. He teases her around with his buddies and won't learn anything. The teacher didn't provide extra credit or inquire as to whether the girls were okay with it. She, in my judgment, had these girls perform her duties. I informed my niece that she was not had to do this, and that she should inform her instructor and request to be released from this duty if she truly doesn't enjoy it. The instructor protested to my brother and sister-in-law, my niece's parents, after my niece did it. That's when my sister-in-law called to scold me. She advised me to keep my liberal views to myself, saying that she didn't see anything wrong with her colleagues' overwork and underpayment because she herself is a teacher. I informed her that she was the issue if she didn't think it was wrong that her daughter's education was being hampered for the benefit of a careless boy. As a physician, I would never ask my better patients to assist me with my sicker patients. You understand, even though it's not the same. My brother concurs with me, and it seems that my niece's demand, along with other girls' demands, started a movement in the classroom. The guys appear to be learning, and some of the girls actually seem to like the exercise, but this suggests to me that the assignment itself is not incorrect. Rather, her method of approaching it is. However, I believe that young girls are being entrusted with more responsibilities than they can manage, whether it be raising younger siblings or overseeing the education of other pupils. Still, my sister-in-law believes I'm the fool. Everything about this is blatantly misogynistic and unjust to both boys and females. Why is it considered that boys are lazy troublemakers and girls are quiet, smart people? It's not that kids are being encouraged to assist other students. Rather, the absurd gender bias permeates everything. Not to be a downer, OP, but you and a few other parents ought to inform this teacher immediately. It is the responsibility of parents to assist their children if they are struggling academically. I frequently receive this. I had to do this as a child as well, and I can't say I like it. This whole process of brainwashing females into believing that troublemaking boys need them at all times is just another method of influencing young minds to support this kind of horrible behavior. I understand that educators are underappreciated, but that does not mean children must bear the burden of this, as your niece does. She doesn't need to be intimidated into making sure a different child is learning sufficiently. If the child is truly that much of a bother, get his parents involved. It is inappropriate to demand rewards or extra credit for the girls who are made to teach if none are being given. One issue, though, is that this happens in class. Even though at that point this might be seen as a teaching opportunity, I don't think it's appropriate. That takes place in between. She asked them to work more during their breaks, really? That's against the law. What lies are the girls being taught at this school? Such a respite is undeserved by them? This shouldn't have to be done unless someone volunteers to assist those in need. Furthermore, the gender argument sounds absurd. Well, a revolution has begun. I'm glad that opposition to it exists. Overseas,